Hello friends, today we take a look at the 5 best all-rounder Steel Pass Nuke Warframes, builds so powerful that your teammates will question why they even queued in, combining insanely high KPM with high survivability suited for literally any mission type, with most builds even including level caps. But enough yapping, let's jump straight into it. Number 5, we have Gara. I'm honestly surprised that even after the Exalted rework, people still don't play this awesome frame. We are going to be nuking with our first ability, Shattered Lash. We have a fairly balanced build, going for all stats with the exception of going pretty high range, and the reason for so much range is that it increases the range of our Exalted weapon. Since our second ability does give us 90% damage reduction, we do go for Adaptation. And with it, Arcane Blessing, which will give us a lot of HP. As for the aura, we have Corrosive Projection. You can honestly run whatever you want, but remember that the default polarity sucks, so if you don't want to aura format, just use Dreamer's Bond, and of course, Prime Sure-Footed is allowed if you have it. The subzoom is Nourish, cause Gara's own third ability is just a worse version of Nourish, to be honest. Arcane Energize is there so you can literally forget that you have an energy pool and just freely spam all the time. And then we have Archon Stretch. It actually works with our Exalted weapon. And now I think you know where this is going. On the Shattered Lash build we have Prime Pressure Point for base damage, Gladiator Might and Galvanized Steel for crit chance and crit damage, Whipping Wounds and Blood Rush as our combo mods, Galvanized Elementalist for status chance and damage, and lastly double electric mods. You need to make sure to actually run both of them since we are playing Nourish and the slash weighting on this weapon is very high, we want to keep the electricity weighting the highest. And of course the king of all melee arcanes, melee Influence. As for the Archon shards, we have 2 cast speed yellows, 2 crit damage purples and 1 duration red. Purple shards are why Prime Flow is mandatory on the build. And lastly, with the Arc Gun update, we got Arcane slots, but how does it exactly help our build here? Well, if you slot Dexterity on your Arc Gun, it just works as Dexterity would work on any weapon, and you never need to use it. You don't even need to pull it out. I'm not exactly sure if this is a feature, but nonetheless, it's really cool. This allows us to use any school we want without being forced to play Naramon. How the build works: you do damage with your first ability. It has a massive range and it spreads electricity because of melee influence. You want to keep your second ability up at all times together with Nourish. The second ability does infinitely stacking damage for any enemy that comes too close to you. And the fourth ability refreshes the duration of our second ability while also doing damage in a much bigger radius. For high levels you want to stick to nuking with your 1, but on lower levels you can purely evaporate the whole map with just 1 glass shatter. One tip for how to use the glass shutter properly is double jump and cast it while holding aim glide. This will just drag the glass downwards and make it have even bigger radius. And one last tip, be sure to invert Gara so you get the sweep on your tap. Number 4, we have Gauss, our favorite speedy boy. We want max range and efficiency, since this is a very spammy build. The duration is fairly important, but we don't need too much of it, and honestly this build works even at 40% strength. This frame doesn't even need a subzoom, we are going 100% natural, and we are nuking with our third ability, Thermal Sunder. Splitting expertise and streamline 1 level of max to hit the 175% sweet spot, save some mod capacity and to get 10% ability duration. Since Thermal Sunder does hit damage, we use Archon Vitality. This works even on rank 0, but the HP is useful while we build our battery on the base Steel Path. Molt Augmented for extra strength, which will also help us get to 100% damage reduction from our second ability at full battery. You will only need about 60 kills to get to that point. Corrosive Projection is a must for full armor strip, which I will explain right after the Archon shards. We have 2 blue max energy shards and 3 red duration shards. Now, many players do the mistake of not utilizing the fourth ability on the nuke build and going low duration, and this ultimately just destroys the whole build. So the fourth ability not only gives us an insane amount of cast speed, so we don't need other means of cast speed, it also gives us the ability to fully armor strip enemies with ease. Too long didn't read version on how to play this frame is, your battery is not full, you need to do 3, 1, 3, 1 and then hold 3 to proc all the heat, assuming you inverted your buttons, which you should. And if your battery is full, you just do 3, 3, hold 3 and boom, the enemies are GG. The amount of casts does depend on how much augmented stacks you have and what level the enemies are, but you will easily figure it out based on your situation. Gauss is just so fast that the enemy's aim turns into stormtrooper aim, so keep your 4 and 2 up at all times and spam 1 to charge your battery and maneuver around the map. Number 3. I mean, it wouldn't be a Warframe list if Saryn wouldn't be there, let's be real. Now this is not your regular nuke build. It does take a bit of time, but let me remind you, Saryn scales infinitely. So you want to go max range, this is very important, and a little bit of strength and duration. Don't cripple the efficiency. Your spammable, which is Miasma, is very expensive. Now we go back to the players that play a Saryn nuke build and they subzoom 3 or 4 or just don't use them. I feel sorry for you, dude. Did you not learn how to read in school? But Alexstream, it's only 1 viral stack, that's so pointless. Okay, let's go back to school. 1 stack of viral, by the way, gives 100% more damage, and Miasma gives a 4 times multiplier. That's an 8 times damage modifier in total with just 1 viral stack. And if you read your third ability, instantly burst spores when attacking afflicted enemies. And yes, Miasma is counted as attacking enemies. Now that the class is over, we can go back to the build. Catalyzing shields and brief respite for some survivability, and primed flow since Saryn has a massive energy pool base. Now you might be confused by why Molt Vigor and not Molt Augmented. Well, Molt Augmented is obviously going to give you 15% more strength, which is better on paper, but you can snapshot Saryn Spores, which means you can use strength modifiers like Mother Eye Slaying Strength, Molt Vigor, and even the Grimoire Outfire first, then cast your Spores and never touch that button again. Unless you, of course, start dropping stacks, which should not really happen if you are playing correctly. The Grimoire build can be whatever you want, just make sure you got Vom Invocation for the fat 60% strength boost. For the Archon shards, I recommend some Caspi shards, either 2 normal green max corrosive stacks or 1 Tau Forged, and if you really want to maximize your ability damage, you can do ability damage on enemies affected by corrosive status. Now this won't make your spores scale any faster, but they will do more damage, so it's on you to decide. We have one more thing to discuss before the gameplay tips, which is Bombokla, I mean Huras Kubro. So the important mod about this companion is Stalk. As long as you play a frame that doesn't need to use weapons, this is extremely useful. You practically just have permanent stealth. As mentioned before, fully pre-buff before casting your first ability. Keep your third ability active at all times. For survivability, you got stealth and your second ability. Whenever your shield breaks, just click 2 and your shields are back to maximum, and most importantly, spam the hell out of Miasma. This will spread the spores and help you infinitely stack your damage. Very simple yet very effective. On the number 2, we have one of my recent favorites, the one and only Dante. We want pretty much all the stats, with very high strength. We have Primed Flow for max energy and Equilibrium for limitless energy sustain. Molt Augmented for even more strength. Aura and Exilute slots are fully up to you. I just play Dante in Cascade, so I like to be fast. Sprint Boost and Nira's Anguish both help with that. And on top of all that we have, Roar Subzoom, further boosting our damage. And now you might look at this build and think, Archon Stretch? Archon Continuity? Arcane Impetus? Is this guy on drugs? Well, let me tell you something. Dante has every single status in the game, except Void. And it's all thanks to Noctua, his exalted weapon. Now, this build is also going to look hella sus, but for what we need this weapon, Galvanized, Fire Rate and Multishot mods don't work. So we have this little arcane called Secondary Encumber. This is what totally breaks the build. If you press 234 on your keyboard, you will get Word Warden buff, which will basically trigger an instance of damage whenever you do damage with your weapons. And it also works on teammates, so whenever this new instance of damage does damage with a unique status thanks to Encumber, you will get 1 stack of Impetus. And when you get the maximum amount of stacks, which is 13, that's just it. You can permanently have it rest of the mission as long as you're not AFK. Either shooting or your teammates shooting or casting 3 will reset the timer back to 20 seconds. And funnily enough, Archon mods do work with these shenanigans. Impetus fully stacked gives you 78% strength and 39% ability efficiency. That's just madness for one arcane slot. For the Archon shards we got 3 cast speed yellows, 1 red strength and 1 red duration. You can mix and match this however you want, but this much cast speed on Dante feels amazing. The companion I like to play with Dante is this boy over here, because Dante has Perm Overguard and Immortal Death Cube is a good death cube. But this video is about ability nuking, so I don't want Verglas to steal the show. Now if you start reading everything in depth about Dante's skills, it gets way too complicated, so I will explain in simple terms. You do need to play piano a little bit with this frame, so try to stay with me, okay? Roar is 1, keep it up at all times. 2, 2, 4 combo is Overguard. Stack the Overguard until you are at max. Your Overguard will only ever break at very high levels or level cap, then just refresh it. 2, 3, 4 is our extra damage, plus impetus stacking. Always keep active. 3, 3, 4 is the nuke. How many times you need to press 3 is based on the enemy level. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's more. 3, 2, 4 makes enemy vulnerable to status damage and makes enemies less accurate. Always keep active. And on the number 1, we have Nezha. We want max range and max efficiency. This build does work with 40% strength even as well, but it does feel better to have a little strength. The subzoom we use is Thermal Sunder. You can exchange this with either Darkverse or Flare subzoom, but the main point of this build is that it nukes everything in a 40 meter radius even through walls. With the Divine Retribution augment we will spread the heat procs to all enemies impaled, and with Archon Vitality we will straight up double the damage, on top of an additional modifier provided by Divine Spears. If you are going for level cap, you do need to either remove Umbral Intensify or Augur Reach for catalyzing shields. If you do remove Augur Reach though, you have to run Brief Respite instead of Enemy Radar. But this amount of tankiness is perfectly enough for base Steel Path or Archimedia. With Archon Vitality you get a decent health pool together with 90% damage reduction from Warding Halo plus status immunity. The second ability gives damage vulnerability and practically infinite energy. Now this is another Warframe being Warframe moment, but it doesn't say absolutely anywhere that if you hit an impaled target with Chakram, they multiply and auto-target other enemies on the spears. But that for some reason just happens. Molt Augmented itself is enough to make our modifiers be ridiculous in this setup. Arcane Energize is pretty overkill, but then again, Unga Bunga is the way. As mentioned from before, Madurai is the superior choice here, giving us more cast speed and strength. Archon shards are simple, 2 cast speed yellows and 2 blue max energy. The green one has nothing to do with the nuke build, but if you're looking for general use build, it's pretty good. If you want to be cool, this is the combo. First you start off with your Chakram. While it's midair, you cast Divine Spears. While the Chakrams are multiplying, you cast Thermal Sunder and finish it off with the Divine Spear Slam. If you are lazy and your energy is full, it's allowed to just use spears and then spam Thermal Sunder a couple times. This will surprise still delete everything off the screen. And in the end, priming your spears with a weapon is allowed. Just use a high hit weapon and go nuts. Now there is one little downside of Nezha. The spears don't impale enemies with Overguard. But this is sometimes bugged and the impale goes straight through the Overguard without stunning the enemy but stacking up the heat and one-shotting them. This usually happens on the second rotation of using spears, is what I've noticed. Bug or a feature, we just never know. And one very cool secret that I think not many know about Nezha: once you teleport using your second ability, all your movement skills are reset, meaning even if you use the roll dodge, jump and bullet jump, even if still midair, you can use them again, practically flying. That's gonna be all for today. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new. If you want to see more, be sure to leave a like and/or subscribe. If your favorite nuker didn't make the list, do drop a comment down below letting me know how delusional I am, and tell me the frame of course. I will catch you in the next one.